How you doing? You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get this party started, man.
Hell yeah. Let's start from the beginning a little bit. When did you kind of first know in your life that you wanted to be a performer?
When I was a kid, I was very shy. I was the shyest kid in my family. And my mother would always put me in some programs to sort of get me out of that shyness. Um, I stayed at home. I played with Legos. I was always in the library. I was a complete and utter nerd. So I wasn't athletic or sociable or anything like that. I like staying home. So I remember I went to my mother did there was a program for a summer kids program where you could do theater. And I didn't grow up in the theater at all, but I knew my mom thought it was a great opportunity for me to sort of like get out of my shell. And I remember having such a great time with it, to become different characters. I had to be 12 years old, different characters, things like that. And I loved I loved the research part of anything, of like learning about. I remember we did 1001 Arabian Nights and just learning about all that. Again, it was very bookish. And then I just imagine I just put that seed was planted. I had a great time, but I didn't grow up, even knowing that being an actor or artist was a real career. So I go to college and I take an acting class as an elective because I thought, oh, I can take an elective with 3 credits and let me take this class because I remember something that I really enjoyed about it when I was 12 years old. And I took the class, and this teacher named Christopher Wolf, he pulled me aside one day and he said, have you ever thought of acting as a profession? And I thought, no. He said, I think you may have a gift in this profession, and I would love to see where that takes you. And I'll never forget that. I'd never heard from anyone what my gift was. I think I was always searching for my gift. And he said it, and he left an impression on me. And then I started taking some classes at the Walnut Street Theater School in Philadelphia while I was matriculating as a journalism student at Temple University. I didn't tell anybody about it. I was being very protective because I felt like people would laugh if they thought I was trying to do this thing that I felt like was not afforded me in some way, shape, or form. Um, yeah, I didn't know how I would get from there to doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I took a leap of faith, and I moved to San Francisco and started working in the theater. And then I developed into a writer and a director, and I moved to New York. 10 years later from that, I'm giving you the cliff notes. And then,
Mm-hmm.
my career just kept going and doing what it was doing. And I developed into a producer as well. And now I live in Los Angeles, and I'm a producer and a writer and a director and an actor, and I work across all mediums, and I'm having the time of my life.
Is there a part of you that still feels like on every project, every role you take or write, there is something you have to prove to either your coworkers or the audience watching you? Or is there kind of like this newfound hard earned confidence in everything you do?
Oh, wow. I wish I had that confidence. I don't think I have that confidence. I think I have confidence that I am someone who doesn't mind being wrong.
Mm.
I don't mind trying to figure it out. I think every project in any platform, I'm always curious and trying to figure it out. I like that idea that when I feel like I don't know how to really do it, that's exciting for me. I don't lean into the projects where I feel like, oh, I got this, well, I can do that. If I did it, it's not interesting. If I did a version of it, it's not interesting. I'm attracted to things that I feel like I just might fail. I just may be told, hand your keys over and thank you very much for playing, but you're no longer wanted. So I think I've come into this industry the way I've learned about anything that I do, which is to be daring, which is to try to lose myself in it and be willing to. I know that I'm always the first actor or writer or director who's willing to make a bad choice, because I think that's what you have to do. I've always learned you have to do that in order to get to the good stuff. And you're going to find, even if you know that that's the way I think I should do it, you got to go on this, curvy ride to get to it, because you're going to find some precious jewels and gems that's going to illuminate that performance or that writing or that bit of direction a bit more. That's what I love. I never feel like I've got it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's a healthy feeling. I think if I feel like I've got it, I should leave the business.
Yeah, it's all about that discovery. So speaking of your theater career, you've played on Broadway, but also in lots of regional theaters across the country, across the world, even. And I'm curious, what are some of the differences you've noticed in audiences on Broadway versus off Broadway versus a San Francisco theater versus a Philly theater?
Now, that's a great question. I think I've always enjoyed playing. I think I've had the most joy playing roles in the regions. And something about when you get to commercial theater, there's an expectation. You want to make sure that the New York Times is going to give you a great review. You want to make sure your audiences are coming and the ticket prices are going up and all that stuff. When you're doing something, I started my career in San Francisco, which is similar to Chicago in a way, I think, because artists are there to do the work. You're there to do the work only. It doesn't matter for a great review. You're like, I'm going to do this, and this is about getting the work done. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you have true craftsmen there, and I really that's the ethos that I come from. And so I've loved performing in San Francisco in particular. That's where I made my home for 10 years. Um, and I also really love commercial performing on Broadway has its size because you're like, it's Broadway, it's incredible, it's wonderful. But I'm always trying to push the envelope a little bit. Anything I've done on Broadway was not meant to be on Broadway. You know what I mean? It was meant for people who want to interrogate art, who would like to sort of deconstruct the whole thing, the whole form. I've been a part of things like the Scottsboro Boys and Passing Strange. That's not something, not either one of those projects. The intention was to do it for art's sake. I started off Broadway with both of them. And the intention was to do it for $400 a week, but do it because you believed it mattered. The one commercial bit of theater I did is Chicago, but it's also written by a very Kander and Ebb, who are have their roots in doing subversive theater. Performing in London is fantastic because I think audiences are groomed that they don't sit with folded arms like New Yorkers. They sit open and like, show me, tell me. It's a culture that's steeped in the theater and are welcoming of it because it's theater for the people. I think even the price points make sure it's for everyone. It's not just because Broadway has become elitist, which I'm actually very happy that I think that we have this moment in the American theater to re-examine what we are and what we have been in the past few years and how it has become elitist, even the nonprofits. If there's a ticket price for $200 for a ticket at the public theater, there's a problem. Then it's not theater for the people. And so I think that that's been such a systemic problem where it was catering to everyone coming in and commodifying the theater and not actually creating theater for the people, which is actually the most impactful theater, I think.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Passing Strange, which I wanted to talk about a little bit, specifically Spike Lee directing kind of the staged performance version of that. Mm-hmm. What was it like working with him in this kind of hybrid theater film environment? Was it different from when you would normally just perform the show at that theater?
Well, the beautiful thing is, like, I believe Spike saw it like 10 times. So the beautiful thing about Spike Lee is that he wanted to capture the essence of that experience, of what he felt in the theater, but he wanted to get cameras in on you. I remember asking Spike, oh, should I dial down? I mean, I'm playing a German performance artist and a Dutch nudist, and everyone has such size. I'm like, should I dial it down for the cameras? That's a little large. He was like, no, play it the way you play it every night. He wanted audiences to have that experience that he had. You just get to get in a little closer because it is raw. What I did in Passing Strange has such size. I think that if it was intended for film, if it was the other way around and I created it for film, I wouldn't have played it with that much size. You know what I mean? Yeah. I look at it now, but I love it. I love the way it's been captured. And I'm very happy out of all of the work that I've done that Passing Strange is captured. That spirit of the theater. I think that Passing Strange was the precursor to the Hamiltons. you know, and Dear Evan Hansen's. You know, I think everyone, you know, I think everyone knows. It's like, yeah, there had to be this disruptor in the American theater called Passing Strange for these other things to take place. It was I had the time of my life, and it changed my life, and it changed my career.
There is one kind of New York theater actor rite of passage I wanted to talk about. You've been on several Law and Order episodes,
Yes.
and not just in the original. You've like played multiple characters within different spin-offs and stuff. Can you talk me through the kind of procedure of getting the call of like putting your name on the board, so to speak, of like joining this Law and Order family? What was it like?
Look, first I have to go back. I have to go backwards because I lived in San Francisco, where the job to get there was Nash Bridges. So it was like so, and also in Nash Bridges, I was on 4 different episodes as 4 very different people. And so when I moved to New York, I knew that the gig to get was Law and Order. You weren't an actor worth your salt if you didn't get a Law and Order. You felt like you were like, why am I not booking a Law and Order? You know, and so when you do, it does feel like that rite of passage. You're like, oh, I get to be on this stalwart of a show, you know, and you're wondering, well, I get to walk and talk. You know, the walk and talk is that, am I going to walk and talk? You know, I love how they're always, the perp or whoever has the information is always busy doing something else while they're talking to the cops. I'm just fascinated with that because I'm like, I think if the cops were questioning me, I would stop and talk to them. But they're like, no, New Yorkers are too busy for that.
Yeah.
They understand. So, oh man, it was great, and I was just happy that's right, when I got Law and Order Trial by Jury, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Law and Order. Great, man. And so, but then you know that once you do a Law and Order, that you won't do one for a while because that's the way they do. You have to, you know, cycle through. So you want to hope it's a really great guest star, you know.
And what is the most memorable thing you got to do of these various guest spots?
I got to play a schizophrenic heroin addict.
Wow.
Yeah, on Law and Order Trial by Jury, which starred BB Newirth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that only had like one season, but I got to play this guy who was a schizophrenic heroin addict, and that's that combination. Oh, by the way, I auditioned for an attorney for that one, and I don't know what it is about me, but I went in there with my suit on and my shirt and tie, and I delivered the dialogue, and the director looked at me and says, He was a British guy too. He was like, you know what, Colman, I have a thought. Would you mind reading these other sides? And I was like, schizophrenic heroin addict. I was like, and I thought, what in me, where did he see schizophrenic heroin addict? You know? But it's funny because that's the role that I'm usually more drawn to than sort of the straight and narrow attorney. Although I've played that on Law and Order too. I have played a straight and narrow attorney, but I have more fun playing the characters that sort of snap, crackle, and pop.
And I feel like your character on Euphoria is kind of right in the middle, right? He's sort of like he's
Look,
on.
I'm just going backwards. I'm going back into like a drug addicted person from the beginning of my career as schizophrenic heroin addict. I'm sort of like bringing it back with someone like Ali, who's been through it and who's in recovery.
Yeah, exactly. It's this kind of like beautiful symmetry and this kind of poetry, which is what Ali talks about in the recent Euphoria special, which I just watched. And I'm curious, when you get that script and it's so kind of dense and text heavy, and I know your experiences in the theater where you're used to memorizing an entire play worth of material, I imagine the shooting schedule is a lot quicker. It's during COVID. It's kind of last minute. Technically, what was it like to like memorize and get your lips around that text?
Well, Sam first told me about the episode, and he said it's just an episode with just you and Zendaya, and it's just you two having a deep conversation about life, addiction, loss, and love. And I said, wow, so it's just the two of us? He said, yeah. I said, could you get me the script as soon as possible? He said, absolutely. So he sent me the script, and I think I had about a month, and I put myself into the blessing of the pandemic is I had time. So I put myself into a full-time rehearsal like I did in the theater. So I probably rehearsed for about 40 hours a week for 3 weeks. And I took it very seriously. I got up and I rehearsed myself. I I put my lines on, in a program called, Rehearsal App Pro, and I read Zendaya's lines, I read mine, I listened back and forth. The first week, I just listened to the lines, to just like sort of listen like music and let them just get into my system. And then I would break it down and do my work. I did all the work that I haven't done for a long time in the theater.
Yeah.
The way to build character, to build the moment. So therefore, hopefully, the work doesn't show itself. I just want to be available in the room once me and Zendaya were together.
Yeah.
So I put myself through a full-time rehearsal, and with even when it comes to research and having conversations with people in recovery, um, examining even like the history of Black men and why they become Muslims as well, and what exactly does that offer. Anything that was in our text, I had time to do my research in detail to find out what is the relationship between Nike and the Black community. What is the relationship between all these things, and Ali and what he wants in that scene. And so then I think we had the opportunity to actually, Sam gave us, I think we had 5 days of shooting, and we knew our schedule. And the beautiful thing is it was just two people in a diner. So we got a chance to just, it had an ease to it.
Yeah.
And because the set was smaller and production team is smaller, it sort of stripped away the whole circus of a set and made it a bit more graceful, to be honest. And I think so you can do that work. You can do that work that requires such a sense of peace,
Yeah.
to just listen and respond, to do that thing that you teach in school. I teach, or students are trying to learn, which is actually quite simple. That you go through all these universities and all to learn how to listen and respond, and it's actually that simple. And I think what Zendaya and I truly did, and which is why I think the episode is so special, because it is watching two people at the end of this year do the thing that we're asking people to do in the world, which is sit across from one another and have a hard talk and go to some very deep places, and don't be afraid of it, but to put your heart and soul in it because you want to get closer to that person.
That's like such a beautiful jumping off point for the two of you as performers, scene partners, and those two characters for season 2 of Euphoria, I would imagine. Is there anything you're particularly excited about to explore with Ali in season 2?
Yeah, man. Now that we've sort of peeled away some of his layers and we know what his Achilles heel is, um, how he operates and what's his operating systems, I'm very intrigued to see where Sam takes him, because he's opened up such vulnerable parts of him, like that conversation that happens outside with his daughters. Because you can play so many notes after that. You can take him anywhere you want. Um, and I know Sam's mind is so big and his heart is so big. And I know that he's curious and he's daring to take his characters on an extraordinary ride, for them to fight for their humanity in some way. Young people and old people. He gives everyone their story. He gives everyone their story. Um, I'm excited where he takes him. I don't know where he's going to take him, but I'm excited for what Ali has in store.
And so are we. Let's shift gears away from that a little bit. I want to talk about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. You have performed August Wilson's words before on stage, 7 guitars, I believe.
No, Fences. I directed 7 guitars.
Oh, copy that. My bad.
It's okay.
What was it like performing him on stage versus performing him on the screen? What were some of the differences there?
The beautiful thing about August Wilson is he gives you everything. Everything you wanted to do as an actor, he gives it to you. When you perform on a stage, I think I operate very well on stage because I know the size of how to play size of emotion and how to make sure that that person in the back of the Belasco Theater can understand what I'm saying, doing, and feeling, and what my intentions are. But then the beautiful thing is that we had a 2-week rehearsal process with George Wolfe, who is a master theater director. And but it's a great balancing act to play these characters who have such size and to actually um, lean into the intimacy with these characters. Everyone has these very clear objectives. They're very clear, very strong, and then to just put it into that little room and to trust that, to trust all the small nuanced moments. You know, usually for the theater, things are a bit more, you want to make sure people know what you're doing with an action. But here you can just sink into the character even more so and into the fullness of the weight of their body, the way they place their feet and their hands, dropping into their voice and the way they pick up their instrument and their relationships with every single thing. So it is sort of like a hybrid of doing both. I do feel like I'm doing everything I would do in the theater, but then I'm also really detailing it and creating such intimacy as I do in film.
And there are these really, really intimate, I almost want to call them like sparring scenes.
Oh, that's exactly the way I would put it. I feel
Yeah.
like we're all I'm in the room with heavyweights from Viola Davis, Chadwick Boseman, Michael Potts, and Glenn Turman. I'm in the I'm in the ring with heavyweights, and I want to bring my game, my A game. So it's Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and Joe Frazier, and we're all in that ring together because everyone's working at the top of their form. Truly, that's what we were doing, and the language spars. So you have to be open. You have to listen. You have to always be present. You can't just check out and decide to get all up in this moment because then the moment's gone because so you have to operate. I think it's a true ensemble what August Wilson's given us, and I think that's the way we play it. We play it like a band.
You absolutely do. There's this one moment. This moment has such a beautiful crescendo with you and Mr. Chadwick Boseman, where you're trying to communicate this story about a bus from Tallahassee. It's at a very low energy, and then suddenly it erupts into a physical altercation. What was it like? What was it like playing that scene with him, staging that scene, getting into that with him?
I think the thing that I know about all of our characters, especially Chadwick and my character as well, everyone walked in with their own pressure cooker. And Ma's is just raging. She's just full fire and heat and sweat, you know? And Cutler is on a low simmer, just a very low simmer the whole time. And I think you can tell from the very beginning that there's going to be a clash of ideology. There's going to be a clash in the way we do things. It starts off the moment Levy enters the room and says, "I bought me some shoes," and Cutler's like, and he bought it with Cutler's money. So already they're like, there's already this. They keep missing each other. I do feel that they have a lot in common and they respect each other, but I think that they're pushing each other a little bit. Like Levy is coming in, he is definitely um, he has an intention to be the disruptor, and Cutler is trying to keep everything in line. And even when he tells that story in that moment that you're saying, all Cutler has is his faith. He is a man of faith, and he believes in it fully. And then Levy's character presents his receipts based on the story that Cutler said. He challenges Cutler by saying God hates niggas. God's taking niggas' dreams and throw them in the garbage. God don't care nothing about you. And that cuts Cutler to his core. Why? I think possibly because he may believe that Levy could be right. And then where does that leave a man who all he has is his faith? So it's about, I love that August Wilson puts the challenge of God's will right in the middle of the play. And that's not something that's often done with Black characters. Everyone's always like, "Oh Lord, yes Lord," and falling in line. But here's the character in the center who's saying, "Question it. I question it because my receipts show differently." He said, "My experience is my mother was raped in front of me. I was cut across my chest. Where was God when these terrible things happen? I question that he exists." And Cutler, I think the reason why Cutler hits Levy is as if he's trying to stop the sound. He's like, don't say any more because I won't be able to live on this earth, especially as a black man in 1927 who he only has power in this band because of Ma. So he's under someone else's power. He doesn't truly feel that he has agency in the world. He plays in a band that just plays, very simple music. You know what I mean? Basically it's a cover band in a way, and you have someone who's trying to buck the whole system, and Cutler is not for it at all. That was a beautiful scene to play with Chad. It was absolutely beautiful because we had to give it our all. We had to leave no stone unturned, and we had to put Colman and Chadwick into the scene as well. When we did that scene, Chadwick stopped halfway through because he was so bubbled up with emotion. And I yelled at him, tell me, tell me, tell me. I refused to let him get out of the scene. Whatever was going on with him, I wanted it in this action. And I've never done that before, but I felt like I had permission. The room felt like, it was like, no, we're going there. Let's go there. And he does. And then I hit him. And then George calls cut. And immediately, without a thought, we wrapped our arms around each other and we sobbed. So we had to go on the brink together. And I had to make sure my brother, Chad, could continue to deliver on the promise that he set up for himself. I didn't know Chad was struggling like he was. No one knew. But I look back now, to be honest, and I do know, I can tell that possibly in that moment, there was a struggle with the words that you were about to say and what you're possibly dealing with and the questions that lie in all of our hearts when difficult things land in your lap that you can't make sense of. Why am I dealt this deck? Why did this happen to me? I know I felt that way when I lost my mom and my dad in the same year, right when I was doing Passing Strange. And I thought, well, why me? Why does this happen to me? And my answer for myself was like, why not me? But I still have faith. And I think Chadwick did as well. But there's always those questions. You do question God, I think any healthy person you do question once in a while, based on the ills of the world and what you see, and you wonder. But yes, still you hang in there and you try to have faith, because we need some faith to get through these. I don't want to say these dark times, because I don't believe we live in dark times. I believe we live in challenging times, and they've always been challenging times. And I think that's just part of life. And this is what we're dealt, and we just have to find the light as much as we can. How did I get on that? I have no idea.
Wow, that was so well said. With our final moments together, I do kind of want to talk about what I feel like I see light and joy in your performances, even when your characters are going through difficult things. And I see light and joy with you specifically with your Bottomless Brunch at Colman's web series.
Yeah, man.
I think that's such a delight and it's just so fun and infectious. I'd love to know, with our final moments, like, where did that idea come from and what has it meant to you to kind of put that out into the world?
I'm going to sound like the biggest Pollyanna right now.
I want it.
So
I want it.
I just thought I'd shove up that disclaimer for anyone who's reading or listening, is that I think that I like bringing people together. I feel like that's part of my life's purpose. I think that's my best self. And in a moment of the pandemic and people raging against the machine, against racist institutions, I felt like, what can I do to sort of not be a part of the conversation, but be a part of healing, bringing people together, having a tough conversation, all of that stuff. And I thought, what if I usually have people over. That's what I usually do. I have people over to my house all the time. I love being a host. A host is another thing. I feel like I'm great at being a host. If I don't know anything else, I'm an amazing host. I know I get the right lighting, the right food, the right people. I don't invite everybody at the same time. I really curate the room. So I thought, what if I curated the Zoom? What if I sent people a cocktail to make, and we made a drink, and we just took a breath. Who doesn't like brunch? Everyone loves going to brunch. I haven't heard anyone who says, "Oh, I hate brunch." Everyone loves to go to brunch, have a nice cocktail, be with some friends. I've had brunches that lasted 8 hours, you know? So I thought, why don't we do that? And it's and so I talked to AMC about it, and they thought it was a very interesting idea, and they got on board. And we did season one in the first part of the pandemic, and then we did season two because they really liked what was going on. And a wonderful sponsor, Diageo, came on board. They represent many incredible liquor brands, and I just wanted to bring and curate a conversation, sort of pull a Dick Cavett, and let people just talk about what they wanted to talk about. I set it up. It's very structured. It's like, there's some lighthearted conversation, but hopefully I keep it light and ask some rapid fire questions and play some games and make a cocktail to actually then go into a deeper conversation that I know everyone wants to have. So I wanted to sort of pull the veil back from my friendships, let people into my home. We go into everyone else's home. You get a sense of people. So we talk to Common and Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Julia Stiles and Daveed Diggs and Barry Jenkins and Lulu Wang, and I feel like Anika Noni Rose. And these are all my friends. And we have just gotten the green light to do season 3. So we're going to do 6 more
Congrats.
episodes. Thank you so much. I think it's a good thing. So we're going to dial it up just a bit more, and hopefully even do 1 episode on a linear platform as well. Just 1 episode and test that out. But it's something I'd like to continue to do. As long as I can find time for it, I would love to. It doesn't have to be in my home. I think it can be in the studio. But I think I like the idea of hosting and bringing people together and having a conversation. So, and I have an extensive list of friends who I think are interesting the way I know them. And that's what's interesting to me. I'm like, I don't want people to come on and promote anything. I love that Common was on. He wasn't promoting an album. He wasn't promoting a film. He was being Common and talking about people who inspired him with style and his first time rapping and stuff like that. I'm like, that's the Common I know. I want you to know my friend Common, not Common, the Academy Award winning, superhero. Yeah, So that's the fun of it, and I'm glad I get to do some more.
That's so great. I can't wait to see some more. Thanks so much for your time, Colman. It was so great
Sure,
talking
man.
to you.
Oh, this is great. This is probably my favorite interview of the day.
Oh, that makes my
Yeah.
day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.